What's up, everyone? Welcome to Back to the Future. The podcast takes a trip down Philly sports memory lane. Ask the question, what if? I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. I'm joined today by my very special guest, my brother, Kyle Montgomery.
What up?
And we got a very special episode today. It is World Series week, and we're going to be talking nothing but Phillies, World Series, how they got here, what chance they have, and just everything that went into this season. Just a couple housekeeping things real quick. I know it came up a couple times, people reaching out to me. This is Back to the Future, my longer podcast where we take a dive into actual specific events, teams, or years, and just talk about it, see what would have happened if things came out the other way. I do have my daily This Day in Philly Sports History that kind of grew out of this. It's a quick 2 to 8 minute pod every day, a little micro pod. I also post the video on YouTube. So it's something quick while you're waiting for the dog, having your coffee, sitting on the toilet, whatever. No judgment here, but just something quick for you. And it's often tied to whatever it's going on that in that season or in that time period of Philly sports. So just be on the lookout for that. Like and subscribe. I was going to get into a little bit about Doc Rivers, but I don't want to bring this celebration party down because of how just they're bad. I mean, he doesn't have them playing defense, but we'll get into that later. But all right, man. So welcome.
Appreciate it. Love it as always.
So let's get right into it. What is it about this team? Like what?
They're having fun. They remember they're playing a game. That's what I love about it. It reminds me of the 08 team. They're having fun, and they're gelling at the right time, man. They caught fire. This is eerie that they definitely remind me of as much fun as the 93 team, but they're as good as the 08 team, if not better than the 08 team.
Wow, that's a great comparison. Not something I really kind of put two and two together, but I know John Kruk's fired up about it.
Oh, hell yeah. How can you not be? I mean, what Bryce Harper was able to do in that clinching game, that's what we all dreamed about playing in our backyards growing up. You know, like that's exactly what you dream about in that stage. And he was able to deliver, and that's what we're paying him the money for. And everybody else is feeding off of that. I love it.
Absolutely. I love the fact too, where he's like, this is my effing house. This like, we're not going back. We ain't losing. So speaking of that home run, where does it rank? I guess first, where does it rank in the all-time Philly baseball plays?
I mean, all-time Philly baseball plays, it's probably right up there, top three. If they go on to win the World Series, it'll probably be even higher. But, I mean, that last strikeout with Brad Lidge and Carlos Ruiz, the call from Harry Kalas, that sticks out in my head. But as far as iconic home runs, that's number one, in my opinion. I think that Absolutely. Has to be number one. Mike Schmidt's 500th home run is classic, but they were a losing team.
Right.
That was the only highlight they really had, and Harry Kalas made that call famous, you know. The Victorino against the Brewers in 08, Matt Stairs against the Dodgers in 08, great. But what Harper was able to do to send them to the World Series, I mean, that has to be number one.
Yeah, I mean, I think just the sheer magnitude of it. And, we brought the kids up. We're like, you need to watch this. And this was even before he had, and I mean, they wanted no parts of it. But, we knew, you just had that, and I agree with you. There's just something about, you just sense that he was going to – I didn't expect him to hit a home run the way he did. But you just knew, and, all right, how is he going to get the hit here? And I couldn't think of any home run, let alone play, that was bigger just for what it meant.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you what, man, when he's hitting the left field the way he's hitting the left field, he's dialed in. And, you know, it's probably going to disappoint a lot of Phillies fans when I say this. I don't think the Astros are going to pitch to him. They're going to have a hard time pitching to him. The only saving grace is the fact that right now Realmuto's on fire too. He's hitting pretty decent. If Castellanos can stop swinging at the first pitch every goddamn at bat, we might get them to pitch to him. But other than that, they're going to intentionally walk him to get to Castellanos every single time. So
he needs the old school.
Yeah, I mean, this is the pivotal World Series for Nick Castellanos. I mean, he's the X factor in this whole thing. If he can learn how to hit all of a sudden, they'll pitch to Harper, and Harper will stay dangerous. But unless that happens, they're going to intentionally walk him probably every time.
I would agree. So what do you think it means then for Real Muto? Is he going to see more pitches, or are they going to try to give him shit pitches to hit to see if he chases?
I think they'll pitch to him and try to get him to hit into double plays and things like that, because they don't want to have to put Harper on. I mean, if Harper may be forced to hit if the people in front of him can get on base. You're obviously not going to intentionally walk a guy with bases loaded, but I've seen it happen before. I mean, when Bonds was in his zone that year, they intentionally walked him to walk in a run. I mean, it happens.
No, I agree. I mean, I think you're right. I think Reese needs to stay hot. I also think Nick Castellanos needs to step it up, because with that pitching staff, like they want you to swing at the first pitch.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think Bryson Stott's the other X factor. Young kid he doesn't even realize what he's about to do, which is awesome. That's exactly what you want. He's not going to get caught up in the moment. He's not going to be in all. He's just going to do his thing. And I think he's going to be on his game too, which might help. And you may see some lineup changes. You may see Nicky go down in the lineup and Bryson Stott move up. You never know. That back-to-back lefty against this fully right-handed staff against Houston, that's a matchup nightmare, man.
I definitely want to get into that later once we get into the kind of the predictions and matchups, because they are a right-handed heavy team. So
yep.
So kind of shifting gears a little bit, and let's kind of revisit where actually before we get there, and it's something I meant to mention soon. What do you take of Gene Segura getting on the plane in his uniform?
Business. He's all about the game. He's business as usual. Let's go. He wants to play tomorrow. Well,
I thought that was great.
But I mean, when he got on the plane, he wanted to play like right away. He's all about it, man. I love it. He's focused.
I thought that was
these
great.
Guys, they realize that this may be their only shot at a world championship. They're not taking it for granted, man. They're all about it. I love it.
Yeah, awesome. I wanted to ask you that, because to me it showed that he was taking hitting practice, fielding ground balls, whatever he was doing, and he's like, shit, I don't have time to change. Fuck it. I'm just wearing my uniform.
Absolutely. I loved it. And I think that sent a message to the rest of the team. Like, man, if he's taking it that seriously, the rest of us should too.
Absolutely. I love it. So obviously this is the 7th time in franchise history, which isn't necessarily a good record when you've been playing baseball since 1883, but we cherish it. 7th time, like I said, overall. This is a special run, but going back to spring training, was this the expectation for this team?
I don't think the World Series was the expectation. I mean, listen, when you go into spring training, obviously that thought goes into your mind, especially with the talent that they put together, right? I highly doubt that they didn't have this, at least in their head, right? From a fan's expectation, we wanted the playoffs. That's what we wanted. Playoffs we would have been fine with, and they almost gave that away. But I mean, we knew that we knew that our pitching was okay. It was decent. We knew Wheeler and Nola would be the 1-2 punch. Offense, I mean, they still put together a team with that didn't really know defensively what it was about. They didn't have an identity, and I think they overachieved defensively this year, which helped. And now they call fire at the right time.
No, and I think you're on the side. I definitely thought playoffs, and I think catching fire at the right time is the great way to put it. And a little off topic, but it still deals with the playoffs. You've seen the Mets fans whine and cry about it. You saw the Braves fans after they lost whine and cry about it. Didn't really hear much from the American League teams too much, because I think everybody expected the ALCS to be the Yankees and the Astros. What's your take on that? Like, saying that, because we had to rest, that's why, which I don't know, but
I think it's just a cop out. I mean, at the end of the day, the league made this decision to get more teams into the playoffs to make more money and make more revenue. And did the Phillies benefit from that? Sure. But that could have been any team that benefited from that. They still had to go out there and play the opponent the same way. And, you know, the way the division winner got the home field advantage and they got all 3 games in that wild card round. I mean, that's an advantage. If you didn't take advantage, I mean, the Phillies had to go on the road, and they whooped ass. So that's
two
not
straight.
Yeah, I mean, that's shame on the Cardinals and the Mets for not producing in that regard. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I
mean,
think I top out it. It's a typical fan complaint. That's all it is.
No, it's just, and they were like going on. I'm like, but who cares? It's like, we could have complained in 09 or 2011 that, oh, well, we won 102 games and now we got to play the wild card team.
Yeah, the hottest team in baseball right now. Yeah,
right. And they actually won the World Series that year, didn't they?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So hopefully the trend continues. But you mentioned the defense. And one of the most, I would say, pivotal and iconic moments from this season was that game against the Mets when Bohm had the 3 errors and got caught and said, I hate this fucking place.
Yep.
Do you think, and because I will say, in not like true Philly fashion, and I mentioned this on the one pod where A-Rod and the guys on Fox's national thing actually shouted out the Phillies fan. I almost had a heart attack about how they gave him a collective hug because he owned it and everything. How do you think that impacted his season and what he's been able to do?
I think it impacted it a lot. It could have turned it around the complete opposite way than it did. But he, and listen, I don't know if he had people in his ear in the locker room, some of the vets that said, hey, you better own this or it's going to be difficult for you or anything like that. But I think the fact that he owned it and said, hey, my emotions got the best of me. Hey, as Philly fans, we love the emotion, right? Did we love what he said? No. But, I mean, the fact that he owned it and he came out and he actually turned his season around defensively where he played pretty damn well. Yeah, he made some bonehead plays, but they weren't as bad as that, and he owned it. So I think it definitely turned it around. And, I think seeing the adversity that he went through and how he owned it and the fans kind of grew around that, I think that kind of sent a message to the rest of the locker room too, especially for a young guy. I mean, right. you expect that out of a veteran to own it and do that, but I mean, a young guy like that could have tarnished his whole career.
Oh, it could have went south very fast.
Oh yeah.
No, I mean, and the truth of the matter is, I mean, and if I work with you and you're higher than me and you're listening to this right now, put your earmuffs on. But I'm not gonna lie, I've said I hate this fucking place today, like at work. So I mean, we've all been there, we've all done it. And I didn't say it to anybody. I said it to myself and the dog, but still same deal.
Yep.
All right. So the obviously the biggest pivotal moment, I can't say that word recently, pivotal moment of that season came when they fired Joe Girardi. And I have to say almost unexpectedly, I don't think there weren't really like rumblings that like a lot of rumors, usually like somebody would say, hey, they're talking about this, but what's the difference between him and Thompson that really sparked this team basically?
Thompson's more like Charlie Manuel. He's a player coach. He's a player manager. He's one of the guys. He's a baseball lifer, right? He knows the old school methods. He knows how to talk to players. He knows that, by all means, we know analytics are great, Gabe Kapler, but they're not the end all be all. You still need to play the game. I think the difference was Rob Thompson will come out, have his lineup, and he'll keep his lineup for 2 weeks straight to let them get into a routine. Girardi would throw a lineup out there. If it didn't work one night, the next day it was a completely different lineup. So you didn't allow people to get into a groove. I mean, there was people in the beginning of the year saying Schwarber shouldn't be the leadoff. They brought him in to be the leadoff. That's what his job was. And now you see the benefits of it right now. He's in the zone. He's in the flow. 46 home runs in the leadoff spot. Yeah, you could say that as a third, batting third, it would have been a lot better. They probably would have won more games, but who cares? They're in the playoffs.
I think he's going to hit 46 home runs in the third spot in that lineup, though.
People aren't going to pitch to him. That's the thing. Right. So Thompson has his own things, and he sticks to his gut, which I love about him. I think that's what the players love about him too, is the fact that he doesn't second guess things. If he has something written down that he's going to do it, he does it. Like pulling Wheeler in the 8th inning that time, just anything that he does. And right now, it seems like he's pushing the right buttons, man.
Absolutely. And I think too, what my takeaway was, and this was my biggest beef with Girardi, was he didn't play the young guys consistently enough, like a Bohm, like a Stott, to get those reps, to get comfortable where they are. And I think he's just like, hey, you need to play in order to get it going. And I mean, I think as much as it was, I liked him. I think the time was ready to go, but the whole DD Gregorius, and once Segura came back off the DL, like that was the perfect spot. You wouldn't have seen that with Girardi. And I don't know if they make this run if Stott's not your everyday shortstop.
I don't think so either. I mean, when Stott can go 4 for 4, he can also go 0 for 3, but both of those are few and far between. He's a 1 for 3, 2 for 3
Right.
with a walk and RBI. He's one of those guys all the time. But the good thing about Stott that Girardi didn't let him show, Stott will take a pitcher to 9-10 pitches every single at bat. That's crucial in the 7 spot or in the 8 spot. I mean, you're flipping that lineup over after giving that guy a 9-10 pitch at bat. I mean, that's exactly what you want out of that guy.
No, I agree. And I mean, and just you could just see his confidence grow the more he played, And I mean, it also helps that your roommate was Bryce Harper too.
Yeah, absolutely. But they're two great players, man. I think Stott has the makings to be a star in the league. Absolutely.
I do too. And I like why you described it earlier. Like, I don't think he knows what he doesn't know yet either, which
is
I
awesome.
think is huge.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's great to see that, man, because he's gonna do wonders in this World Series, and he's not even gonna know what he's doing.
Right. And I'll get more into that once we go into the preview, because I think one thing about this team, there's a good mix of players like that, but then players with the World Series experience. And I think Schwarber is the perfect example of that. And like, I don't want to spend a lot of time on it now, but I mean, he won in the place where was impossible to win. And you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
so you win. I put that, I almost, and Boston guys are going to hate this, but I would put winning the World Series for the Cubs above breaking the curse of the Bambino, just because of how just intense and just terrible those teams were.
Yep.
But that's just me.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with you. I don't disagree at all.
Now, I said I wasn't going to do it, but I'm going to do it, and you can spend 2 minutes on it. Are there any similarities between Joe Girardi and Doc Rivers right now?
Oof.
Or am I just putting the Doc hate on overdrive right now?
Yeah, listen, I mean, I love the fact that the Sixers signed PJ Tucker. I do. But Matisse Thybulle has got like 3 minutes all year. And you keep losing games. You got Tucker for the playoff run. That's what you got him for. Rest him. Don't put him out there all the time. You put Thybulle out there. Thybulle plays much better defense than Tucker. Much better defense. But Thybulle's like it's funny to me. 6 to 9 months ago, Thybulle was like, "Oh, we can't trade this guy." Now he's not even playing. So what are they doing? I don't understand that with Doc. He's one of the, and to your point, that's a similarity I see with between him and Girardi. It's the veterans. He wants to play the veterans. I'm not ready to panic yet, like some of these guys, and say, "Oh, it's time to trade Embiid for a big
like me."
back." I'm not at that point yet. But the more I see him taking 18-footers as part of a regular offense, it does frustrate me. It does frustrate me. I mean, the guy's 7.
It goes back to the coach. And
yes.
I don't want to spend too much time on it.
Yeah.
I just needed somebody to justify my Doc Rivers hatred right now and frustration. Yep. I said give him 10 games, and that was before that's when they were 0-2. Now they're 1-4. I'm like, Jesus Christ, we want to have 10 games, but
give him a bag of cough drops and get him out of here.
Yeah, whatever. Anyway, so the Harper injury, and I know we were talking about the young kids and their opportunity, but overall, how do you feel that how did that help the team get to where they are?
Other people had to step up. I mean, you hear it all the time in sports with that next guy up mentality. You got to step up.
Dog mentality.
And the Phillies did it. They had those guys that stepped up. And that's exactly what they needed to do. You got guys like Nick Maton. He's not going to be on the World Series roster, but he came in, played well. And then you trade for Brandon Marsh. Like you make this happen. I mean, think about it the other day. When you have Brandon Marsh going from right center to left center and making those catches, you think Herrera would have made those catches? No. If he did, he would have threw it straight into the ground trying to throw somebody out. You know what I mean? So, like, they made the right moves at the right time. And getting those guys while Harper was out, it allowed Schwarber to get into his zone. It allowed Realmuto to get in the zone. It allowed Reese to carry it for a while. So it allowed some of these guys to come up in big spots that kind of prepared them for this moment. And then when they got Bryce back, he wasn't exactly into the flow yet. And then September hit, and boom, there you go.
I agree. And I think and I think that's kind of where some of the September struggles came from, was just trying to figure out, like, all right, Bryce is back. Where do I stand? Where does he stand? And I think that's, luckily for us, the Padres and the Brewers also struggled in September. And I don't want to say we backed into the playoffs, but we backed into the playoffs. But
yeah, I mean, I appreciate Milwaukee not playing their best down the stretch. We knew the Padres were what they were. They would have been a lot more dangerous with Tatis in the lineup, but he's an idiot. So, that is what it is. But yeah, I mean, hey, it doesn't matter how you get in as long as you get in.
No, 100%. And I think the whole you are what your record says you are, and our record said we were the third wild card team. So
absolutely, that's how it works.
So what clicked then in that first game against the Cardinals? Then I mean, I was like, here we go. Like, we're gonna 2 and done, and all of a sudden that 9th inning. What do you think it was that just clicked inside of them?
I think they just have that mentality, man, where they're going to fight, and that's why it reminds me of that 08 team. I mean, that 08 team, we would see them be down like 12-2. Here they are, crooked numbers, man, crooked numbers, and that's what this team can put on you. It can put on crooked numbers. I mean, it's they never say die. They don't give up. It doesn't matter if it's a 9th inning with 2 outs, 2 strikes. They're still in it. They're still fighting, and that's what I like about them, man. Like, then that's why they are where they are, and that's stuff you can't teach that. You know what I mean? That's something inside you can't teach, and I think they all have it, and they all feed off of that. And I think Harper's not going to let them lose.
I don't either, man. Like, I really don't. I think there's just something about him. I think he's like, all right, this is what you brought me in here for. I made the promise. I'm not losing.
Right. Well, and it's one thing when you have that mentality, but when it's contagious and everybody else feeds off of that, where you don't want to let yourself down, but now everybody else don't want to let you down. So it's a team effort at that point. You don't want to let each other down, man. That's a whole different animal mentality wise, when you don't want to let the other guy down that's sitting next to you. You know what I mean? You remember from the offensive lineman days, you're fighting for that guy right next to you, that it's a brotherhood. You know what I mean? And I think they got this brotherhood on that team, man, and it's unmatched. It's very hard to match that.
No, and I think, honestly, the way they won that last game against the Padres, now they're looking at Bryce like even more so. And I just hope it doesn't go too far the other way, where they're putting too much pressure on themselves to not let him down.
I honestly think that they're looking at each other as, we got the veterans in here, we got the homegrown talent in here. Let's go out and win this thing. You know what I mean? And I think they have the right mindset going into it. And Thompson's so laid back. He's like, hey, we got 4 more. That's it.
Listen, I was glad to see he opened his champagne for the celebration this time.
I think Schwarber wasn't going to let him not this time. He was right in his face telling him to.
It's like, twist.
Yeah.
No, I think they have the whole Jake Taylor mentality, man. Go out there and win the whole fucking thing.
Yep, and they can easily do it, man. It's we'll get into it, but yeah.
No, so, and then one, before we actually start getting into it, let's go back to Bryce's home run, because I know I agree with you. I think it's the biggest home run in Philly sports history. I would even put it up there as far as plays with, have the Philly special, and then Bryce's home run. I couldn't think of any.
I think it's number 2.
You have 4th and 26, but that was a wild card game or a divisional game that you didn't go to the Super Bowl in.
No, this is number 2. And if it would have been World Series, it would probably take over. The Philly special or come pretty close. I mean, the Philly special is going down in Super Bowl history.
Right.
We're not there yet with Bryce. I mean, Bryce is, it's playoff history, but it wasn't the World Series. And so that's why I think it has to take a number 2 to the Philly special.
Right.
You know?
So speaking then of World Series playoff history, where do you think it ranks with that? I was like trying to think about it, and obviously the 2 that pop off the top of my head are Bill Mazeroski in, what was it, 1960, and my father-in-law won't ever like that. Yep. He still lives and dies by that home run, and then the Joe Carter home run. But I couldn't think of any others that were like that stuck out as because Reggie Jackson's was 3. You know what I mean? Like there was.
I mean, in Carlton Fisk, that wasn't a World Series, right?
No, I think it was, but they lost.
Yeah, they lost the World Series. So, I mean, it has to be top 5. There may be a couple that we're missing, but that has to be top 5.
Sure.
Just because of the magnitude of it and the player and the situation that it was in, the day, like how the game went, everything like that. I mean, it's probably top 3, top 5 easily. In
Kirk
baseball.
Gibson was the other one. Kirk Gibson was the other one.
Yeah.
So I don't
put it top 5. If it was the World Series, like I said, it'd probably be 1 or 2 easily. But who knows? We might get another one soon.
Listen, I'll take it. All right. So instead of going through World Series and playoff history, because truthfully, do we really want to talk about Grover Cleveland Alexander?
No.
I don't think so.
Rather talk about Grover from Sesame Street.
Right. But I did put on the one pod, like he's my favorite player that has his number retired but doesn't have a number.
Yeah. It's amazing.
That makes any sense.
Yeah.
All right, so let's break this down and kind of go position by position and like who has the edge, who's going to, I guess, win out. And let's start with catcher. You have JT, obviously.
JT. Maldonado's good. Don't get me wrong. He's a solid hitter, but JT is the best catcher in baseball, hands down. Not even close.
No, and I think too with his offense, I think is what is going to kind of give him the edge.
Gives him the edge. Yeah. I think he has a better arm too. So if anybody from the Astros tries to steal, I mean, it all depends on how fast Nola and Wheeler get it to the plate. But I mean, I think defensively he's superior as well.
No, I think so. So we'll give the Phillies the edge for catcher then.
Yep.
Let's move on to first base. You have our boy Reese and the old man for the Astros.
I mean, defensively, it's probably a push. Neither one of them really set the world. Put it this way: they're not Gold Glove contenders. Neither one of them.
No.
Offensively,
he's just like, let me get out of here.
Yeah, I mean, offensively, I think the edge probably goes to Houston on that for consistency reasons. Because Reese seems to be kind of boom or bust lately. Luckily for us, he's booming a lot more than busting. But I think first base goes to Houston.
I would call it a push for the reason you're saying, because if Reese does get hot,
sure, 2 home runs in 1 game. I get it. Yeah. But, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, consistency over boom or bust. I mean, it could be a push. I can see that.
But I mean, if that bust comes in, it's going to be a long series, I think.
Oh yeah.
Because he's very capable of going 0 for 75.
Yep, and he's also capable of going, 30 for 75 and 20 home runs. So hopefully we get that version.
I agree. All right, second base. I mean, I know Gene is locked in, but
defensively, it's a push. Offense, clearly, Houston. Clearly.
Yeah, I was going to say.
We have to keep him at bay. We have to keep him at bay because if he goes off, that the rest of the team feeds off of that.
Just got to make sure, checking for wires, man. That's all.
Listen, I'm not advocating throwing at people, but I wouldn't mind seeing Thor throw at somebody.
Yeah, I like that. All right, so we'll give the Astros second base.
Yeah,
even though Gene's probably still sleeping in that uniform.
Yep, absolutely, and he should be.
I agree. Shortstop.
I'm not gonna see the wrinkles. It's the pinstripes,
Shortstop.
So shortstop. Defensively, man, the kid from Houston he's a whiz. He's good. He's going to be a stud in that league. I think at this time with consistency and fielding, we got to give the edge to Houston. I don't want to do it because I think Stott has a great future in the league. But I think currently, as it stands, that edge goes to Houston.
And I still think I would agree, and I think it's just a slight edge because
Slight
of what
edge.
you mentioned.
He's ahead in his age group right now. Like he's ahead fundamentally, and it's because they let him from start to finish. They let him play. I think Girardi kind of messed Stott up at the beginning of the year, like you said. I think he could be just as far along if they gave him the reps.
Right. All right. So hopefully we need Bryce to just get in his ear and start.
Oh yeah, I think that's already happened.
Yeah, I agree. Listen, this is our team, not my team.
Yeah,
our team.
Got that swagger, man. I think it's happened.
All right. So third base, you got Bohm and you got Bregman.
I think that's a push. I mean, I don't want to be a homer about it, but I think it's a push. I mean, Bregman's up there. He's getting up there in age. Bohm's young. I think Bohm's a streaky hitter. So is Bregman, though. But I think fundamentally,
and we're talking Bregman this year, though, not Bregman from 4 or 5 years ago.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think this year, I think this year overall, I'd probably go Bohm over Bregman, to be honest with you, slightly. Because as you said, after that Mets game, he turned it around defensively, and he's been pretty damn solid defensively over the last 3 months of the season. You know what I mean?
I'm gonna have to agree with you. I have it written down as push / slight edge Phillies. So
yeah,
we're on the same page with that.
Yep.
So outfield, just as a whole. I mean, I think. What do you think?
I mean, obviously, offensively, Marsh is our weakest link.
Yes,
and then followed by Castellanos. So I think the edge has to go to Houston, but I'm going to use a term here that you hear a lot in like the NBA draft. I like our upside. Our upside is a lot better than theirs. They have a lot more to lose if they go into a drought because their outfield is kind of relied upon, as opposed to the Phillies, where we didn't really get much production out of right and center field offensively. So if we don't, great. But if we do, look out, man.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, even with Marsh, when he hit the home run, like, that's like gravy at that point. Like,
Absolutely.
Your job is to make sure you're making plays in center field.
And
You're going to hit a 3-run homer, I'll take it. I think, and it goes back to what we said earlier, I still think Castellanos is sort of that X factor, and even more so than Reese, because I feel like just like we've kind of dealt with this outfield and we're able to go through that without them kind of like Castellanos for most of the year not producing. Yeah. We're used to for years now knowing Reese goes through his slump. So I think if he does, somebody needs to pick him up. But so I definitely think I'd give the edge to the Astros.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you have to. But the thing that Reese brings that Castellanos doesn't, Reese can work a pitcher too. Reese can work a pitcher and occasionally get that 10 or 12 pitch at bat that turns into a walk and sparks your team. Castellanos swinging on the first pitch gives you nothing. Yeah, it's aggressive, but if you're hitting one shortstop every single time, it's not doing anything. It's not helping the rest of your team out either, you know?
I agree. I mean, do we even have to talk about designated hitter?
No.
All right. We know who gets the edge there.
Phil's my man.
What about the starting pitching?
So overall, the depth goes to Houston. But the 1-2 punch, I would say it's a push. If not, it's in the Phillies' favor. I put our top two up against their top two any day of the week. The difference is the 3 and 4. When we're going to a bullpen, when they have a qualified starter that would be a number 2 on any other team, that bothers me. That worries me a little bit. But listen, we attacked the Padres the way we attacked them. We attacked the Braves the way we attacked them, and we attacked the Cardinals the way we attacked them. So the key is to get one. I think starting pitching depth goes to Houston, but I think overall it's a push.
And we need to win the Ranger Suarez game like we have been.
Absolutely. Yep. Hands up.
What about bullpen?
I would give the edge to our bullpen. I don't think there's many people and listen, you can blame conditions, you can say whatever you want. Alvarado and Sir Anthony are two of the best bullpen pitchers this year in the major leagues.
Yep.
And I would put those two up in the 7th and 8th inning, even the 8th and 9th inning, however you need to do it. I would put them in the 7th and 8th inning up against anybody right now. And then you bring Eflin in the 9th. Eflin got that dog in him now, man. He understands his role.
Yep.
He's
I
a
love it.
low ball pitcher. He's going to get those ground ball outs. He can get out of that. He doesn't leave the ball up high.
He reminds me a lot of Brett Myers when they moved him to the bullpen.
Yep. He has that mentality, man. I'll do whatever I need to do to help the team win. Yep.
I agree with you. I think I would give those two guys the edge. I think just the depth of the bullpen, I would give Houston. I think they have more guys, but we've shown throughout the playoffs that it doesn't matter.
No,
we'll hit.
I think the Astros have like our '08 bullpen. They have a guy that you can turn to for 2 outs. You have a guy that you can turn to for situational. Right. We don't have those guys right now. Like we do, but we can't trust them as complete as Houston can. But as our offense has shown, man, good luck. Yep. Good luck, you know.
I agree. All right, we're running low on time here. So the $1 million question. What is your prediction for the 2022 World Series?
Phil's in 5.
Wow.
They're going to take one in Houston, and we ain't leaving Philly.
I like it. I like the confidence. I'm thinking Phil's in 6, and they win that next game in Houston. I think somehow they drop one, but it would not surprise me if they come home and then don't go back, just like they did in Tampa in 08.
Yep. I honestly, I feel that in my gut. I feel like the recipe's out there. They're going to follow what they followed the rest of the postseason so far. Against the Braves, against the Padres, they're going to take one on the road, come home, and we ain't leaving.
I was going to say, I think intangible wise, it's all Phillies. The Phillies have the intangibles. They're hot. You have everybody. The only thing that scares me is everybody in America is rooting against the Houston Astros.
That's because they're cheaters and everybody hates them. I think the Astros have overtaken the Yankees as the most hated team in baseball.
I agree.
I never thought I'd say that. I never thought that would happen, but I think that's what it is.
And we're already 1-0 against them in the postseason anyway. So
love it.
Let's make it 2.
I will say, shout out to Mancini and Trey Mancini and Dusty Baker. Great guys, great baseball guys. But sucks for you when the Phillies beat you in 5.
And that's where I think we're going to leave it. That, like, there's your respect, but fuck you. I love it.
Absolutely.
All right, brothers.
Phillies in 5, man. Love it.
Thank you once again for joining us. I appreciate it. Going to have you on again. Hopefully when the Sixers finally fire Doc Rivers and we can go a little bit in depth into that.
Hey, I appreciate it. I hear Jay Wright's not doing anything right now. Just saying.
Listen, he's got good tickets too.
Yeah, he does.
All right, brother. I appreciate it. For everybody out there listening, be sure to like and subscribe. Again, it helps out the algorithm. Can't figure out what the hell that means, but one day, once I do, I'll let you know. But I appreciate it. Go Phils. And until next time, I'll see you when I see you.
Go Phils.